Recording.
So it is my pleasure to introduce Professor Nicola Bellomo. Thank you very much for accepting to give a talk. So Nicola Bellomo is a professor of mathematical and physics and applied mathematics. He is distinguished professor at the University of Granada, Spain, and also emeritus professor at the Polytechnic University of Torino. So today he will give a talk entitled Behavioral Crowd Dynamics. So please, you can start.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. And I have, in Brazil, I have various friends, so I'm happy to be in this conference. I will be talking about human crowds. Human crowds means that the dynamics is influenced by social interactions, by the geometry where the crowd move. And after all, we have to consider that ultimately we have to consider that humans are living persons, and therefore they express some individual behavior which is heterogeneously distributed in the population which is moving. So I will present in three parts. First, motivate mathematics for behavioral crowds, then mathematical tools and simulation, and then I will try to understand. I do not say, I'm not so naive to say that I will present results on artificial intelligence, but I would like to mention that this is a key problem in the study of crowds. And in the first conference of today, we had an example of effective mathematical tools which can be developed. Well, actually, we do work in the framework of living systems, because we cannot use for crowds the mathematical tools which are valid for the inert matter, and we have outstanding scientists who have been thinking about what is life, from Schrödinger to more recently Lee Hartwell, a biologist. And we have to take into account that, unfortunately, most of the greatest part of models is based on rational behavior. But one studies the crowd also to avoid risks, say to support end users to reduce the risk problem, because we have a very, very frequently incidents with people who die. So it is important to develop a mathematics which includes behavioral features of the crowd in a multi-scale vision, because we can have a situation where different scales play in the dynamics, and we have to keep in mind that safety, security problems are one of the key objectives of this kind of research. An additional difficulty is that we should have mathematical tools which operates for, say, almost rarefied flow when the distance between individuals is sufficiently large, but also very, very much dense flow, and also the flow which can be conditioned by some different types of awareness, during COVID time, and we are living in COVID time today, because the is not disappeared, the epidemic. People behave in a different way, and also in large towns we have to mix individuals and other type of dynamics, such as cars, vehicles. So I move rapidly to this. I essentially said, but what is very important is this one, this statement by Lee Hartwell, biologist. He says that the mathematics for living systems should consider that individuals have a purpose, and then he explains that the purpose is heterogeneously distributed, and insist to motivate mathematicians and physicists to study this kind of problem. So we tried our best, and the idea is that we should work in a different way. Say, we would like to have a mathematical structure which includes some of the complexity features of living systems, such as ability to express a strategy, heterogeneity, non-linearity in interactions, learning ability. Well, in crowds, we do not have it. This is the last one, but in biology, it's one of the most important features. So we have the crowd in a domain. The domain can include walls, obstacles, entrance and exit, inlet and exit doors. And also the quality is important, because the quality of the venue modifies the dynamics, and can be an important parameters or variable in the case of risk situation, for instance, smoke, lack of lightning, and so on. I will mainly focus on the kinetic theory approach. I just mentioned that we can have the description based on the modeling is based on the same principles, in the spirit of Hilbert's sixth problem. So in the individual-based dynamics, the dynamics depends on the parameter that characterize the environment and the geometry of the environment, because individuals have an interactions with the wall at a distance, not only when they collide with the wall. And the activity, the social variable, which can also be a vector, is a dependent variable, because individuals modify by interactions with the other individuals their and on with the flow itself. They modify their physical state. So we can make the same reasonings also in terms of the macroscopic approximation or modeling approach, say, rather than approximation. But any scales is lights and shade. And finally, if we move to the kinetic theory approach, we have that the distribution function depends on a microscopic variable, which is not just position and velocity, but also activity. Moreover, the overall system can be subdivided into what have been called functional subsystems, and in each group, the crowd can have a role. For instance, we can have leaders who are supposed to drive the crowd out of the dangerous position. And well, if we know the distribution function, then we can calculate macroscopic variables such as local density and mean velocity of the stream. And then we need an equation that describes the dynamics. We have to consider that all particles have a visibility angle and a visibility radius, which depends also on the quality and shape of the venue. And what is important that individuals develop a decision making when they walk, consciously or unconsciously. They have a trend towards the meeting point, which defines an objective walking directions, but at the same time, they try to avoid overcrowded areas. At the same time, they have an attraction towards the motion of the other individuals. The selection is made out of a weighted decision process, which depends on the local density and on the activity variable, say the level of stress, because individuals have perceived a dangerous situation. Then in this case, unfortunately, individuals, rather than avoiding the overcrowded area, follow the attractions of what do the other individuals. That is very, very dangerous for practical reasons. We have movies made in real conditions, and then these movies confirm the conjecture which has been made in the previous slides. Well, what happens? We have statistically a test particle, a field particle, and in the field particle we have candidate particles which in probability by interactions with the field particles get the state of the test particle. But interactions are non-local and non-linearly additive. They are definitely non-linear. In some cases, they depend on the distribution function which determines the local density. So here there is another conjecture which has been somehow confirmed by our dialogue with the psychologist. I was involved in a huge European project studying this type of dynamics for safety purposes, and some psychologists specialized in the psychology of crowds helped us to this conjecture. The person first modify his his emotional state, becomes more stressed, for instance, change direction, and then adapt the velocity to the direction itself. So playing with this sort of dynamics, accounting that ultimately if the individual reaches the wall despite he tries not to do that, then we must have a reflection law. So we have the equation, which is not so bad really. It's an equation on which with reasonable assumption it is possible to prove existence. Far more difficult is the problem of moving from this equation to the macroscopic description by asymptotic methods. We have been successful only for a simplified model, not for the full one. The full one creates difficulties that we have not been yet able to do it. Probably we will not even be involved with that. And so there is a literature on this topic concerning varied different aspects, and the review collects all results. So we can make simulation and observe that the dynamics I was presenting before naturally generates, this is just an example, naturally generates emotion which is observed in birds. If there is a leader who goes ahead, the others follow, but in that way they don't put one after the other, because, well, this is what is described by the model, and it is observed in birds. In fact, the model can also explain some aspect of the dynamics of birds. And we can have a simulation which put in parallel a situation. This is a practical problem where we have a platform of an subway, two exits, and the dynamics starts when the people in the platform are in a steady situation. Then there is an alarm which asks them to go out, and we can have a dynamics with followers and with and without social dynamics. If we don't put the social dynamics, there is a dynamics which differs from that in the presence of this social dynamics that modifies in a significant way the way out. And in fact, we have the role of the followers, of the role of the leaders, if there are the leaders who go out, who help to go out in the rational way. The leader is a rational person who try to reach the exit through along optimal trajectory, say trajectory which avoid the overcrowded situation. Then we can have two very different situations, and some of them can be quite dangerous. The same dynamics appear in front of the obstacle, and we can have the dynamics where there is stress and awareness of the overall dynamics. So actually, this mathematical simulation approach, which was developed with the kinetic theory methods, has been applied to a real situation. We have made simulations in this square is an historical square of the town of Torino in Italy during the projection of the match between Real Madrid and Juventus. And we have studied with 30,000 persons put inside this square. And actually, simulations have shown that this popular meeting should not have been allowed, not have been permitted, because I will try I don't know whether I will be able to upload the simulation, but if there is time and possibility, I will try to show some simulations. And now, what about a natural question is posed? We have, can we develop artificial intelligence methods? And we have a crowd which has some analogy with swarms, and we try to understand the dynamics, trying to understand the philosophy of Herbert Simon, Nobel laureate, and he explains how the dynamics is modified by interactions, and this is something we know, but it's also modified by the evolution of the system under consideration. So not only we refer to Herbert Simon in his beautiful book, The Science of the Artificial, and but Jan LeCun, very famous for in the say environment of artificial intelligence mainly with the approach of informatics, but not only. And he explains that we should try to generate into machines a common sense, how the brain works, not the brain in its complexity, this would be very naive, but in the decision-making process. So what he more explicitly says that we should derive a differential system that describes the learning dynamics and subsequently the decision making. So we have this scheme to put into a mathematical framework. Say, after having studied the system, we have to understand and model collective heterogeneous learning and consider the role of the subsystems that in the brain generate the dynamics of the decision making. I do not mean actually the the biology of what is probably the most complex system in living systems, subsystem of a living person, and no one can really claim that this is possible. But if we concentrate on the decision making, well, actually, what I've shown before indicates the way to do that. And then out of that, we have a platform prediction that can make training of the end users. And if we have sufficient information for the tuning of the model, then for the calibration of the model, then we can also make some prediction. Actually, this was exactly the objective of the European project where we were involved, and some results have been obtained, but this flow chart for the moment is a dream. Let's hope that one day it will become something more effective. And I totally agree with what said my colleague and friend Enrique Zuazua. We mathematicians should start also to teaching this kind of way of thinking. So I wish to thank you. These slides have been prepared with my colleague and co-worker Jie Liao, Shanghai University, and we have published the first results concerning the perspective ideas towards artificial intelligence. So, thank you. If I will rapidly try if I can show some movies, but if not, we will end up on this way. If it is going to be rapid, I will do it. In this moment, I have to take this away. No, I don't think I will be able.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We are seeing your desktop. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Look how the crowd does what everyone do, but this is not the most important. I have to eliminate this one. Here is the simulations. Look, this is the square is only 1/2 because it is symmetric. And the red color are the dangerous area. And you can see that the geometry is a killer, because it has put this additional obstacle, and the people have difficulties in reaching this channel which goes to the exit, and the exit is definitely too narrow to assure safety. So other things I do not think I can. Okay, I've finished with that.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor, for this wonderful talk. So let's ask the audience if there are some questions or comments. You can use a microphone and also write in the chat. Lucero?
Hi, good morning. For me, at least.
Mhm.
Good afternoon for you. So I was wondering if it is possible to include to your models some training of the people. At least in Mexico, we have for earthquakes, we have some training, and we practice every 19 September how to evacuate buildings and that. It is possible to include that in the model?
Yes, actually, the objective of the project was to train people, but also end users, because you have the full scenarios of what can happen, and the problem is that in highly stress condition, person do not they do not have any ability to reason. They do what the other do. I have another movie where you see the person running all together. And unfortunately, this is a problem. It should have been, say, the organizers should have been put some microphones, some special lightning in case of danger. They have not even considered the risk. This is the main problem. If the risk is considered, then one should have two types of help. One is the leaders. The leaders can drive a person out, and the other is to teach people by instantaneously,
Okay,
not
okay,
before, to do the correct thing to do.
okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions?
Is
Sorry, Maria Gracia.
sì, is it possible for me to start the video now? Okay, I don't know. Good morning, Professor Bellomo. I'm Maria Grazia Naso. Do you remember?
Yes, I do remember, of course.
Okay, it's very interesting, your study and your work. Do you think it's possible to add also controls? For instance, forces which act in the way then we can obtain no dangerous problem, for instance.
Well, actually, you see, there is the model provides a description on the way people should move to in safe conditions, say safe conditions. But of course, we were thinking about not me, but other which are who are expert in control theory. I am not an expert in control theory. We're thinking about that, and actually, an effective control can be applied by the so-called leaders. The leaders are a rational person who are trained, and they know what should be done, and they have also the possibility to attract the other people. So is a matter of learning between the crowd and the leaders. The crowd learn from the leaders how to do that. So, but this operation must be made possible by engineers before going to the actual, well, mathematics can do something in that direction. In practice, I am doubtful.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Just a curiosity, I was wondering about the brain model. So how we can model the brain. So do you think that the crowd model will work for the brain, or there are
Well,
some somehow?
actually, we cannot model the brain because it's too complicated.
Mhm.
But I learned. I was talking with a professor in neurologist. He's a very famous person in Parma, and he was teaching to me how the so-called specular neuron acts. And specular neuron means that you and me have specular neurons, and if I look at you, my neurons activate to repeat what you are doing. And to joke is likes tennis and say, I used to look at Federer and try to memorize what he was doing, but well, the result was not the same, of course. But what is, in my opinion, is the key that we have to operate on, not on the brain in brackets, but on the decision-making process that the brain does in these cases. So we select a number of options, and then this is the model of the brain.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there other questions? So if not, we thank you again, Professor, for this talk.
Thank you to you all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And